Welcome in, everyone, to the third episode of From Campus to Competition podcast. I'm your host, Connor Howard, and joining me here today is Point Park Baseball starting center fielder Jared Campbell. Remember to go back and watch episode 2 if you missed where I interview Jared's brother Jordan from the Point Park baseball team. Also, remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe as new episodes are on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Time on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, Jared, how are you doing today, my friend?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So, tell me, do you listen to any podcasts or do you have a favorite one?
No, not recently. I haven't really been into podcasts, but I mean, I have a reason to start listening. So,
Okay. So, how did you first get interested in playing baseball?
um, when I was little, my mom and dad wanted me to play as many sports as I possibly could, to stay busy and stay out of the house. And baseball was just one of them that I guess stuck with me, and yeah, that's where that's where I'm at now.
Right. I grew up playing baseball. That was my sport. I always played it. That's what always got me out of the house. I always drew. I played in all types of leagues over the years. So, baseball was always the sport I played. So, what initially drew you to play baseball?
Honestly, it was just I like to challenge myself, and it was one of the most challenging sports out of all the ones that I played, which was soccer, football, and then a little bit of basketball. Baseball is like almost like it was something to push myself into. It's a game of failure, so I wanted to push myself into trying to succeed in that.
Right. Because I know baseball is a game of failure. And it's a very challenging sport. That's what I always enjoyed about playing baseball. So, what is your earliest baseball memory?
Uh, it's actually not a good one, but the earliest memory I have of baseball is when we were playing. It was coach pitch, and we're goofing off at practice, and just decided to throw the ball up. And back then, I wasn't able to catch very well, so just took the ball right off the nose and just blood everywhere. And then from that point on, I was like, you know what? Well, maybe I got to tone it down a little bit. But that was the earliest memory and probably the one that's gonna stick with me for a while.
Yeah, it sounds like a memory that will stick with you for a good while.
So yeah.
So, what made you decide to come to Point Park and play baseball?
It was honestly, it was just fate that brought me here because I was the summer of 2021. I was confused, didn't know where I was gonna go, and thought I was gonna have to hang up the cleats. But then we ran into Coach Torres at this weird place. Uh, he was all the way in Florida, where I live, and ran into him, and we were just joking around, saying, "Hey, you want some players?" I was like, "Sure, let's see what you got." So since then, we've been here, and it's been a blessing.
Is that when you realized you wanted to play baseball at the college level?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just finished my 2 years at my junior college in Florida, and thought I was going to be done after that. But um, no, thankfully, I was able to continue playing.
So, what is your favorite part about playing baseball?
See, it's something about that feeling when you succeed, and it's. I mean, yeah, you can succeed on a football field and a soccer field, but putting the bat on the ball is one of the hardest things to do in sports. It's like it's something you can't really put into words.
Right, because I know for baseball, you can go 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, and be a 300, 400 hitter, and you're considered, good and elite. So,
Yeah,
I think that's always a sport. You can't do it in other sports. So, if you're going like 2 for 4 at the plate, sometimes that could be a really good day for you.
yeah.
So, did you play any other sports growing up?
Yes. It was the decision. The two that I played the most were soccer and baseball. And then going into high school, I was playing both at the same time. And my dad said, "Hey, look, I think it's time to make a decision. Since you're going into high school, make a decision, pick one, and stick with it." So it was baseball.
Right. So, what would you say is the most valuable lesson that baseball has taught you?
Staying humble, because uh, you see it a lot, and Coach Torres says a lot too. If you're not humble, the game of baseball will bury you very quickly. And you come into the box or in the mound or in the field very cocky and just not appreciating what's there in front of you and taking it in, and it'll just bury you and you'll feel lost. Sometimes you'll feel lost, and it's a terrible feeling to be humbled by a game like that.
Right. That is definitely important. So, during your time at Point Park, what would you say it's been like for you balancing classes, practices, and games?
it was pretty easy to balance all that because I was doing it in high school and then all in junior college, so it was pretty normal. You know, mornings would be classwork and getting homework done, and then afternoons would be practice. And when you come home, you know, you have like a little bit of downtime where you can just relax a little bit, put your feet up, and then it's homework. And then by the time you're done with homework, you're tired. You go to sleep. There's not really, you know, no really time for all the extracurricular stuff. So I mean, it was a pretty set schedule that I've had since I was a freshman in high school.
Right, because I know sometimes at Point Park can definitely be difficult because they offer 6 9 classes and they're
Yeah.
only one time you can take it during a semester and that. So I know it can be challenging for some student athletes
Mm.
here. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of playing baseball?
I would say the most challenging part is dealing with success or failure. You know, it's even when you do some things right, it doesn't go your way, and it's not. I mean, you can't control it, so it's not. You can't just hang your head and you know get down on yourself. You know, you just gotta either you gotta. One thing I have written in my hat, I have every single day before I go to the plate. It's learn from it, move on, process it, move on. It's whether it's good or bad, just take what happened, learn from it, and move on with it. Can't hold on to it.
Right, I know that's especially important, especially after if you strike out. I know that's very important. To quickly get that out of your system and then just go back up to the plate. With your head clear and that you don't want to keep thinking about, you striking out,
Yeah,
from last game or your last plate appearance. So yeah, you definitely just want to keep a clear head and just keep focusing on the next at bat.
exactly.
So how do you mentally prepare before a big game?
It's just try to just to remind myself, you know, just pressure is a privilege, and just have fun. You know, this is supposed to be a fun game, and you start putting pressure on yourself, and unneeded pressure, it's gonna start weighing on you heavily, and you just remember to have fun and just keep a smile on your face no matter what happens. It's good things can happen. You know, it's just positivity.
Absolutely, it's important to stay positive. Has your perspective on baseball changed during your time at Point Park?
I wouldn't say change, but it was just no, not really. It's just I've been the same person I have been since I got here, and it's just positivity, 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 and just being better than I was the day before, whether it's at practice or a game. Just just trying to get better any way I can possible.
Absolutely. How do you think, your past baseball teams have helped make you a better player?
Um, about the past teams, well, from all the way from the beginning of my junior college, it was a bit rough. Um, those teams, we only junior college is it's a different game. It's every man for themselves, and they're playing for themselves. And here, it's we play for the team on our chest, and we do it together. You know, we always say family every time we break it down. It's now we don't say it just to say it. We say it because we actually mean it and we care about one another. And I think that's what's really different about this team compared to the other ones from other
Right.
schools.
Yeah, baseball's family.
Yeah,
What would you say is your greatest strength as an athlete, and how does it benefit the Point Park team?
I would say I do a really good job of leading by example and not getting too carried away in certain things. And I'm not a type of person that would delegate anybody to do anything, but I would do what I have to do and show them the right way to do it instead of just telling them. And in the long run, it does help. You know, just they see that I'm doing something that's the right way, they're gonna follow and do the same thing I do and do it the right way, which can lead to many different, good things can only come out of that.
Okay. So, do you think your experiences in baseball have helped shape you to be the person you are today?
Oh, absolutely. Um, After the first year here at my freshman year here, it was a pretty rough year compared to the recent years, and I just said, you know what, we're not going to let that year define who I am, and I just did some time, worked on myself, and just remember that I can only control what I can control, and once it's out there in the universe, I can't do anything about it, can't change it, so I just have to learn to let it go, and ever since then, I've been pretty good.
Right. I think that's just important to move on in situations like that, and then just continue to grow better as a player and a person.
Yep, exactly.
Do you have any hobbies that you like to do outside of playing baseball?
No, not really. Because baseball really takes up a lot of time. But if it's not anything baseball related, I just like to go clear my head at maybe the gym, just go lift weights and just get away from baseball. Just focus on my body, make sure I get it right.
Right, I figure classes in baseball take up just about all your time anyway.
Yeah.
What would you say are your most like important skills or strategies to have when playing baseball?
It's pretty simple. It's just stay relaxed, and don't press. Let the game come to you, and whenever you're relaxed and or whenever you're tense, a lot of things can happen, and you kind of turn, kind of mushy. But if you just stay relaxed and just play loose, have fun, everything will take care of itself.
Absolutely. So, is there a coach or player or both at Point Park that you've looked up to as a role model during your time here?
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Rock, because he's been, my my number one guy since I got here, and we have a special connection since our visit here. We took it was a long visit here, and we spent the majority of the day with him. And ever since I got here from our first day of practice, he's my outfield coach. So I see him one on one a lot of times during practice, and we just have a really special bond. And he's a coach that feels like a big brother to me, and I look up to him, and we share a lot of similarities.
Right. I know because it's like baseball, you're just like one big family. I know we kind of mentioned that earlier,
Yeah.
but yeah, baseball is just one big family, and that's something I always liked about playing the sport. What would you say is the best piece of advice that you've gained from one of your coaches?
My high school coach, who was also Coach Torres' high school coach, he's like a mentor to me. And one thing he always told us was be stronger than your excuses. And whenever you do something wrong, don't look for an excuse. Just own up to it and just own up to it. Don't look for an excuse as to why you didn't make the play, as to why you didn't get a hit. Just learn what you did, know what you did wrong, be a man, and grow up and learn from it and do better next time you get the opportunity.
Absolutely. You want to do better your next time up, and
Yep.
I know it's just very important. How do you prepare for a tough opponent?
Uh, you just you just take the information that they give you, which is you look at certain stats, and you just see who their best guys are, and then the only thing that goes to my head is, all right, I just gotta go up there and compete. Just compete. Their best versus our best. Are their best nine guys versus our best nine guys, and all it is just a competition. Just compete and to put your best foot forward any chance you get.
Right, absolutely. I think that's important whether you're playing at any level of baseball or whoever the opponent is. I think that's
Yep.
just very important to do. So, what was the transition adjustment like for you and the baseball team, leaving the River States Conference of NAIA and then now going to D2 in the Mountain East Conference?
There was really no really big adjustment. I just think the only thing that changed was the four letters in front of our name. I think we had the same identity that we had in the River State Conference. We still have the same same core guys on our team. We still have the same leaders. We all just wanted even more because this is our first year, and everybody thinks we're the new guys, and we're just gonna lay down. And we're here to compete. We're here to be the same team that we were, if not better than what we were last year. And so far, we've been doing pretty well.
Yeah, I think that's important. No matter what conference you're in, you still want to compete and you still want to show people that even if it is your first year, that you're still not just going to lie down. You're going to be a competitive team.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a certain routine that you do for Lance game day?
Uh, yeah, we do our normal, batting practice, infield, outfield, and then we throw, we pray, and then afterwards, I say a prayer to myself, just to help me be the person that the team needs me to be every single day. Help me be, the leader that I was chosen to be. Just help me clear my mind. Help ask God to help me clear my mind to, anything that's affecting, me playing or my body. Just ask Him help me clear it. Help me just focus on what I have to do and help me play it to the best of my abilities that day.
Right. Just to, I think that's important, to pray, to God and, just to go out there and perform at the best of your abilities. So, is there an important lesson that you have learned from your time as a college athlete?
Oh, so many. Oh. Let's see, what's an important one? Important lesson. Uh, Goodness, this is a tough one. Important lesson. Important lesson. I would say, especially for athletes, if you if your coach is mainly focused on like wins over how you are as a person, then maybe you should sit back, reevaluate what you want to do. Because I made that mistake. My first 2 years, I was more worried about winning. The coach was more worried about winning than his actual players as people. And if you find a coach that puts the person over the player, it'll get you much farther than in life. Not just on the field, but it will get you pretty far in life.
Right. It's important to focus on whether it's, your players or your employees, instead of just worrying about, wins and losses. I think that's a very important thing that you should look for in a head coach.
Yeah.
So I know when I asked Jordan this, being from Florida, being a big, Dolphins and Heat fan, would you say that you're also, a fan of both those teams?
Heat fan, yes. Marlins fan, I kind of disown them a little bit since fiasco that Derek Jeter ran us into. But growing up, I was a big Florida Marlins fan, and back when they were called the Florida Marlins, we always go to their games whenever they played the Atlanta Braves. So it was pretty cool to see all those players that are now in the Hall of Fame. To see them when they played, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's always cool when you can go and have the opportunity to watch, like some all-time greats and see professional athletes like that, some of the best, and then you can look back and see that you saw them play during their career, then which I always think is a great experience. Do you have a favorite professional athlete of all time?
Yeah. Favorite of all time has to be Chipper Jones. Just based off of seeing him play when I was young and getting to see him, you know, because he was one of the best switch hitters, of our time, and seeing him play, in person was something completely different. But if I had to compare it to my childhood, yeah, I would say it's definitely Chipper
Do you have a favorite sports movie?
Jones. Yeah. Remember the Titans is my favorite one because back in high school we were called the No Titans, and he every time we ran out from our locker room to every single game day, we'd play, you know, We Are the Titans, and it was just that movie. It really it is a big part of my life because it was one of the first sports movies I've ever watched as well. So having that movie represent me every single day I run out to the field and play in high school was something cool, something special.
Yeah, that's definitely, a great story, especially I think that's really cool when looking back at like high school like that
Yeah.
and then you base it like off the movie. I think that must have been like a really great
Oh
experience.
yeah.
Do you have any funny or interesting stories from your athletic journey?
No, no, I wouldn't say I have any interesting stories. They're all pretty yeah, pretty boring. But yeah, pretty boring. So I don't have any for you.
Oh no, you're
I'm
good.
sorry.
So after Point Park, do you still see yourself playing baseball, or is there something else that you want to do, like in terms of like your career, or maybe get into coaching?
um, I really, really, really want to go. When I'm done here, I want to go to the fire academy and become a firefighter. But if an opportunity for baseball opens the door or knocking at the door, whether it's getting drafted or playing, maybe independent ball or maybe even coaching. If that opportunity comes, then yeah, I'll gladly take it. But as of right now, I really do look forward to go finishing my grad year and then going to fire academy back home. One thing I've always wanted to do ever since I was in high school. So
Yeah, that's awesome. What would you say is your favorite like Point Park baseball team moment from your time here?
it's definitely last year when we had to win 3 games in the conference tournament to win the championship. Those first off, those two games, the first two games of the day were mentally exhausting because we had to win those two games in order to get just to get into the championship game. And if you got to the championship game last year, then you got the bid. So that was the original goal. And then you know in between second and third game, everybody was like, "But I don't think we're satisfied in just getting to that large bid. I think we can actually win this. Even if our bodies are exhausted, because usually two games are pretty hard on your bodies, but playing that third game is I don't think you'll be able to. I really still can't put into words how satisfying that win was. Not just because we beat IU Southeast. It was the fact that it was all the hard work we put in from the fall, that was what drove us to win that game the most, I believe.
Yeah, I know last year you had a really great season. Your last year in AI, I was calling those games, and it was just an overall, great experience. I remember like calling the Alice Lloyd games, and you guys won like 20-0, and that was a really fun game I called. And some of the other games I've called the last few years have been some really great times. Do you have any personal goals that you want to accomplish by the end of the season?
Um, the goal that I had originally set out was to break the record of career home runs, which I did already. Um, that was really the main goal, which was just try to get that record because I knew I was so close to that one. But now that that one's gone, the one thing I want to do is to since it is our first year in the MEC, I want to be the number one team. My goal is for this team to be number one because I believe we are number one team. We are a number one caliber team, and we we deserve it. We went through a lot of hardships, and I think this group right here, we deserve it most.
Right. And I know you've been breaking a lot of awards, recently. You now have the most RBIs now, and you lead Point Park in all-time hits. How special is that for you?
Um, it's something you can only dream of. I didn't come here to try and break records. I just came here to try and have fun. And while I'm doing that, I am breaking a record, and it's very blessed, very thankful that I've been able to do that. And I just want to keep having fun. Whatever record is broken, whatever I'll break it, but I want to do it while I'm having fun.
Right, because that's how I always played baseball. That was always like what I always looked at, just trying to have fun no matter what the situation was. Even when we were down or when we were up, I always just tried to have fun and pick my teammates up,
Yep.
which is what I always enjoyed about playing baseball.
Yep.
So, what is the baseball team hoping to accomplish their first year in the MEC?
Uh, we want to show everybody that Point Park is not just some school in Pittsburgh who like to chant really loud. We're a team that competes. We're a team that is gritty. We're a team that can go up against anybody, whether it's an NAIA or an NCAA. We're a team that can beat anybody on any given day, and we have the talent, we have the heart, we have the determination to do anything we can. And I know that teams are playing us this year, and they're like, "Oh, well, we don't know them." Well, it's okay. They'll know us when they play us, and we'll take care of business.
Yeah, because I know this is, a big difference now because you went from playing, these conference schools in Kentucky, hours away, and now you're playing all these D2 schools in West Virginia and Frostburg and Maryland. So it is a big difference. I know it should help you guys cut down on travel time so you don't have to travel the whole way down to Kentucky. So
Mm.
it probably you don't have to be on as long bus rides as you used to when you were in the NAIA.
Yeah.
What would you say is the hardest part about being a college athlete?
Um, it's definitely balancing, the school and school and like your outside life dynamic. There's some days where you want to go out and have fun and just just go be with friends and whatnot, but then you just can't, because you have baseball the next day or any sport the next day, and you have to get the right amount of sleep. You can't just go out to a bar and have fun with your friends till like 4 in the morning when you have practice or a game the next day. And it's a little bit hard. There's a lot of friends that I have outside of this, and they want to, we want to hang out. We're friends, and I got to tell them no because I can't. It's kind of hard sometimes, but they understand, and it's just how it is. It's they know that sports is my life, and they know that I'm dedicated to this, so they respect, me not being able to be there sometimes.
Right, I understand it's important to stay focused as a college athlete, especially when you have games the next day
Yeah,
and looking at your schedule, you have a long schedule, you got to take it game by game. So it's important, to stay focused on the task at hand.
yeah.
So, what advice would you give to another athlete in high school that is dreaming about playing baseball at the college level?
Um, First off, listen to high school coaches because they'll tell you a whole bunch of stuff, and then you won't listen to it, and then you get to college, and then you're in shell shock. They a lot of the high schoolers they just think that, oh, okay, it's just like high school. No, it's completely different. It's high school ball. Competitions there, but it's high school. College, when a lot of games are important. There's a lot more important games are. There's a higher stake on those games. You have coaches who they they will they they stay on a team based on how they perform. And if they just have the same mentality as they do in high school, as for high school players, they won't have they won't have a job because they won't be as I wouldn't say dedicated, but it's a different stake. They there's a lot more people. Recruiting. There's going to be people from all over the place. I would say just keep your head down, compete, work hard every day, and work harder than the guy next to you. Because at the end of the day, yeah, they're going to be your teammate, but they're also going to be trying to take your job as well. Just work harder than the guy next to you. If you feel like you need to keep working, you want to get some more swings in, more ground balls, do it. Do anything you can to get an advantage on that next person because you're competing against him for a spot or whatever it is. Just compete and keep challenging yourself every single day.
Right, absolutely. I know because you look at the difference between high school and college, you're just playing, people within your community. But when you're at the college level, you're playing people from around the country and
Yeah,
even around the world. So it's a huge difference. And you always want to make sure that, you know, you're staying focused and make sure you're working harder than the person next to you
yeah,
because the talent wise between high school and college is night and day.
yeah,
So it is a lot more challenging and difficult.
yeah,
Do you think being a college athlete has helped you academically?
yeah. It helped me academically because it helped me install the same principles I use on the field, off the field. Just staying committed. Being true to myself on and off the field. Even when I'm tired or one of those days that I don't want to do homework, I have to say, you know what, you have to stick to it. You have to get it done because the student athlete, athlete second, student first. Um, you have to get schoolwork done in order to play. So, yeah, just like staying true to getting my work done even when I don't want to because some days after double headers you just want to sleep, but I know I got to go home and get these next couple projects or assignments turned in so that I can play the next day and remain
Right, that's important. You want to make sure you're getting all your assignments in on time and
eligible.
keeping your grades up. So, as a college athlete, do you have like a strict diet that you stay on?
Yep. I mean, everybody says they have a diet plan, but they don't really follow it. Me personally, I kind of stray away from it because it's kind of hard to stay on a strict diet, especially when we're on the road. It's and then after the long doubleheader days, there's not a lot of healthy options open. But for the most part, I try to keep it simple, stay away from all the bad breakfast stuff, especially breakfast, since we play in the afternoon, so your body runs on what you put in your body, and if I'm eating whole bunch of waffles and syrup in the morning. I'm not gonna be very, my body's not gonna be very thrilled to play that day. So I just try to, toast, eggs, stuff like that, stuff like protein stuff in the morning, so that bananas, especially, and so that when I do play, I'm feeling, at my best.
Right, make sure you're always at the top of your game.
Yep.
So how important is sleep for to you for your performance?
Sleep is a big part of it. There'll be days where I don't sleep and I don't feel 100%. Sleep is also an important part of it. Getting the right amount of sleep is a big game changer because there's some days where just this past weekend we kind of got into Maryland pretty late. It was like 11:30 we got in and we played at you know we left the hotel at 10. That I feel like I try to go to sleep before 10:30, 10 o'clock the max, or because I know I want to get a full night's rest for the morning, so that when I wake up, I don't feel a little bit groggy. I don't want to feel groggy at all. I just want to feel well rested, so that I have a good mental state going into that game.
Right, I know it's important to get a full night's sleep before, especially when you have a doubleheader the next day. So you want to get a full night's sleep, and so you're not tired the next day, and so you get the full energy of getting the full 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me here today, Jared. You've been a great guest, and best of luck to you and the baseball team the rest of the season.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you to everyone listening to the third episode of From Campus Competition Podcast. Make sure to tune in next Tuesday for episode 4 at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm your host, Connor Howard, signing off.